Good evening and welcome back to Issues in Focus with Shibiki Vivals. I know we had some technical issues before, but nevertheless, this program will go forward. If you would have shared a previous YouTube link to your friends, you will have to share the new one that I would have sent to you so that they can be able to join in our discussion this evening. So before we go any further, let us pray. Eternal God and Father, which art in heaven, we are so thankful that amidst our technical issues that we can still go forward and use the social media platform, YouTube. May you be with each and every member of the audience in a special way. Father God, whatever help and support individuals may need, may they be able to get it. Have your way, we pray, through Jesus Christ. Amen and amen. All right, so we are going to get straight into it. And at this point, let me use the opportunity of introducing the special guest on our platform this evening. First up, we have sitting next to me virtually, we have Mrs. Neverson, Mrs. Daly Neverson. She is a native of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, currently a master's student in education psychology. She is married, one son, and I must say it's a privilege for her to be here on this platform this evening. Daleen, welcome, Madam Psychologist in the making, and I can't wait as you continue to endeavor and go on the course of counseling individuals that you will do a fantastic job. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Next up, we have Ms. Joanna Blackman, and Ms. Joanna Blackman is a native of Suriname, and she's a graduate of the University of the Southern Caribbean in the area of psychology. And one of the things I know for a fact with Joanna, she loves discussing when it comes to relationship issues, when it comes to psychological issues. And I know she is also a psychologist in the making. And for those of you who may not know, when it comes to singing, melodious voice, one in which we can class her in the classes of singers. I know tonight we're not in a singing program, but hopefully one of these good days when I have one of those testimony programs, you will be able to hear our melodious voice. So Joanna Blackman, I know it's your first time here at Issues in Focus, so welcome to the program this evening.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Next up, we have the other female that I've grown to love and support. I know this is our second time on the program on Issues in Focus, and we would have interacted on different platforms before. And Teres Mellet Joseph is a counseling psychologist, and she originally from the island of Antigua in the Eastern Caribbean. She has been working in this field for the past 16 years. Over the span of her career, her duties have included professional and curriculum development, human resource management, advocacy work, lectures, workshops, seminars, and therapeutic services. She's bilingual and has lived, worked, and studied in Antigua and Barbuda, Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, Belgium, and the USA. This allows her to bring an objective, congenial, and multicultural approach to her work. She's currently a practicing psychotherapist in Central New York and a doctoral student pursuing a PhD in human development and family science at Socrates University. Her research interests include parental ethnic racial socialization, minority stress, trauma, and contemplative practices. Teres, welcome to Issues in Focus once again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And our lone gentleman for this evening is no other than Drayson DeLong Brown from the island of St. Kitts and Nevis. Drayson is currently the director of food services, but in all means, he has the wealth of experience in psychology, in business, and of course in spiritual matters. Drayson currently is completing his PhD. And one of the things I must say about Drayson when it comes to psychological matters and when it comes to discussing social issues, he is someone who definitely we can depend on. I'm so happy that he's agreed to be the lone man on this platform this evening. Many of the times men don't like to publicly speak about these issues, and I'm happy that he has come forward to speak about it. So Dressen, welcome to Issues in Focus this evening.
To God be praised.
Amen. One of his favorite lines. All right, so let's get straight into it. I know, just a reminder for those of you who have shared the link before, I know some of you here, you are on Facebook, but on YouTube rather, but you are currently one of the viewers on Facebook. You can message your friends and let them know that we are only on YouTube this evening. Also, please, parents, guardians, we're looking, this is what we call one of those X-rated shows. Peach adult talk. So we would like as much as possible, we can keep the children in the back burner for this evening as we plain talk, real talk. We have to discuss this issue, and we are going to come, well, not me, thank God I'm the host this evening, right? But I know my panelists, they're going to be real as possible as we explore this issue. Let me just say welcome to all the members of the audience. In a special way, we have Noelia, Anne-Marie Charles, Dr. Shaw. Yeah, Dr. Shaw is always here, supported me and supporting the team whenever we have programs. Alicia Nelson, Candace, Alicia, Richie, welcome to each and every one of you. So it's a pleasure to have you. All right, guys, so let's get straight into it. When we look at erectile dysfunction, I know it's one of the topics that has been less spoken of, and persons don't really want to come forward and even do things as it relates to it. So the first question I want to ask you, the members of the panel this evening, is, seeing that we're dealing with the psychological aspect of it, in what ways can erectile dysfunction impact the psyche of a man? And at least the first person that speaks, you can give us a little backdrop about what erectile dysfunction is. And members of the audience, please know that next week, by God's grace, we will be doing the biological factor, in which there will be a doctor online, and all when it comes to the medical issues and the different methods of preventing ED and all of that will be addressed in that particular show. But tonight, our focus will be psychological. And so the questions we want you to bring to the table should be psychological questions. Over to you, members of the panel.
I'm noticing that everyone is silent. Everyone is always waiting for the first person to say something. So I'll just start by saying good night to everyone. To keep it brief, as everyone probably knows, that erectile dysfunction is something, or a disorder, sexual dysfunctional disorder, in which someone has a problem to either maintain or to even attain an erection, a man, that is, obviously. So tonight we want to talk about, as you would have said, the erectile dysfunction, the impact it has on the psyche. I personally would think, well, I gave it some thought, and I thought that there are two things that come to my mind when I think about a man and the things that he desires out of life. To me, two things that came out were that a man loves to have the ability to please a woman sexually, and he loves the ability to be able to sustain his family, protect them, provide for them. So when either of those issues are threatened, I think that will automatically have some sort of an impact on his psychological well-being. So I guess we can, as the night goes on, we can unpack that a little bit more. But definitely, once something that strips a man of what makes him feel like a man takes place or occurs, that definitely could lead to anxiety, depression. It will definitely affect his relationships, whether romantic or social, with his children, his family, his co-workers. So I think that it definitely has an impact on a man's psyche.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you.
All right, I second what Joanna says, and we have to understand too that many men often associate their erections with their identity. And so when a man is experiencing erectile dysfunction, he would experience lower sexual self-efficacy, depression, anxiety. His functional status would be impaired in how he relates to other people around him, how he even views his wife. would be affected as well. It takes a toll on a man, like what Joanna says, because everything is circulated around there. This man's sexual drive is so strong that once the tool is affected, then Jason's laughing. When the tool is affected, then it trickles down. It's like a chain reaction where the tool is the head of the train, and then once that is affected, all else goes wrong with his psyche.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Nevison, for sharing. And this is the part in which I don't know if to leave the man for last or allow Terrace to go. I don't know what to do. So between Jason and Terrace, the two of you decide who will go next.
I can go now. I don't know if it'll make a difference, but yeah, men identify themselves with their penis. Let's just be frank. This is why we want the parents to clear their children out of the room.
Yes.
Because we're going to have a transparent conversation. Men identify themselves with their penis. They do. Plain fact. It represents their masculinity. It represents their manhood. In a man's head, the question would be, without a penis, am I even a man? This is what makes me a man. So it is the physical manifestation of their manhood and their masculinity. Scientifically speaking, if you have no penis, you are not a man. And so when you look at it that way, I mean, basically put, if their penis, the thing that represents their manhood, is not functioning as it ought to, that is going to have a deep psychological impact on him, because it is not just his penis that is impacted, it is his masculinity that is being threatened. So that is what goes straight to a man's psyche.
Yes.
Because it is his manhood that is in question. So it's so much bigger than his ability to perform sexually. It is actually a question of, am I truly a man? And to us as females, that may seem like he's really creating a storm in a teacup. It's not such a big deal, but we don't have penises. And for the people in the population who have penises, understand that that is something that can impact your psyche in a huge way. And when I say a huge way, I mean it's eroding your self-confidence. It's eroding your self-esteem. It is creating mood disturbances. You're developing anxiety. You're developing depression. Whether it's low-lying depression or depression that is severe and making you dysfunctional. It has the potential to ruin your relationships, because if you have mood disturbances, it means that interacting with other human beings is going to be a challenge for you. So your relationship or your marriage is now at stake. Your ability to perform at work is at stake. Your ability to interact with your friends is at stake. Essentially, this could derail your life completely. And so that is the impact that it has on the male psyche. It literally creates the doubt in a man's head that he can truly refer to himself as a man, and that is disturbing for a man. So that's my response to that question.
Thank you very much, Terrace.
I don't think I have anything else to add per se, but I want to give a different twist. Ladies, you all did an excellent job. I totally agree with you. And I think you all did well. I mean, not being a man, the research is well done. I'm a man. And I can tell you, Shabiki, there is something that men look forward to at mornings. When you get up, there is an erection. And that erection reminds me that I am a man. It sounds stupid, but that's what it does. It reminds me that I am a man. So when the other ladies would have said that we actually connect our erection with our masculinity, it's 150% correct. Because what goes on in our head is that once I can stand, or have an erection, I can move to so many other levels, which includes relationship, which include bringing forth children, which includes so many other things, even identifying myself around other men. You understand? I can stand out as being a man. But how I also look at this is like this. You know, there's this saying that one's man junk is another man's treasure. You know, they have that saying.
Yeah.
There are so many junks that can be considered as treasure for other ladies. There are so many junks, for example, some guys don't have abs. And that's a junk for a lot of women who totally hate men who don't have abs. But a man doesn't see himself less than a man because there are some ladies who do not like abs. They like that trampoline effect. So that junk in one's woman's head is a treasure in a next woman's head. Another one, some women do not like men who are short. So that becomes a junk for her. She will never date anybody who is short, but a man doesn't feel less than a man. Why? Because some love short men. So that which was considered to be a junk is a treasure. But there isn't any discussion I've come across where a woman will stand up in public and say, I want a man who has erectile dysfunction. I've never heard it. I look at the ladies' faces on the panel. I've never heard it. So erectile dysfunction is like a junk without a treasure. And that's what it is. It remains a junk, especially for women and especially for men. And so if we are experiencing that which we connect to our masculinity, it means, however, it will affect us psychologically. And the ladies would have expressed that also too well. Our self-worth will be low. Our self-esteem will be shattered. The idea of even internalizing that I am a full man will now become compromised. Why? Because of that lack of erection that I cannot bring forward to the table. So that is how I look at it.
Wow. Wow. You know, and that is why it was important, you know, to have a man, at least one man to sit on this panel here this evening. And to the members of the audience, I just want to encourage you, remember, if you have not subscribed as yet to this channel, please do subscribe, like the video, put your comments in the comment section, and remember to share it because it may be information to help someone else out there. So thank you very much all for the comments that you have given. So let's transition now. I know, Jason, you were a man. But then there's this question here, you know, how can this dysfunction or erectile dysfunction affect the wife holistically? And I know wives, Joanne is the only person who is not married as yet. But I know for a fact, we women, we sit, we talk, we know what we want, right? So how can this dysfunction affect the wife holistically?
The wives can speak up. We're waiting on you guys' intelligence.
Okay, well, I'll go first. You know, well, being a wife, I could understand that sometimes we go through this type of mood when there's a period when we really want to have sex, like a lot of sex. And I would assume that when a man has experienced erectile dysfunction, a woman will tend to blame herself. Yeah, she might think that it's her fault. She might jump to conclusions that he may be seeing somebody else. You know, those types of irrational thoughts. And what my advice would be is that sometimes women need to understand that it's not about them. It really isn't about them. Erectile dysfunction is about the man, and we as women, we should, if we are in a relationship where our husband is going through that, is extremely hard for him, especially what how Therese described. And so we need to do our own research, and we need to find ways of helping our husband to cope. So even though it is hard for us, and innately we worry and we stress, and we want to say it's our fault, and pull back.
Yeah.
It's not wise to pull back. This is a time when you and your husband should become best friends. If you're not best friends before, this is a time when you have intimate conversations with your husband. Keep that flame alive in whatever way possible, without pressuring him and without making it feel as though we are just substituting for the fact that he can't perform. So that's what I have to say.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, there isn't very much more I can add to what Daleen said. I think she kind of covered it. A woman's initial reaction in these situations usually is that she feels rejected and she begins to blame herself and wonder if it is something that she is not doing that is causing the issue. That's usually the initial reaction. Um, Over time, she will probably evolve in her thought process and come to the realization that it is an issue that is on him and not on her. But the initial reaction typically is that he's rejecting me. There must be something wrong with me. Um, I think one of the main ways in which this impacts the wife, bigger than the rejection issue and all of the things that go along with that. I think what most impacts her is the fact that men typically do not want to address this issue.
Yeah.
And so the issue often turns into the 800-pound gorilla sitting in the corner of the room that everyone is walking by and ignoring as if it's not like right there watching them. It usually turns into an unspoken thing. And that is what I think most impacts the wife, because she becomes helpless, so to speak. She cannot make him want to address the issue. And many times, erectile dysfunction is a comorbidity. Um, it, uh, I am trying to find a different word to use, for persons who are not clinicians. Comorbidities is just another way to say that it is not the primary problem. It is a symptom of a primary problem.
That's right.
And most of the time, those comorbidities are easily rectified with one visit to your primary care physician. But because the symptom is erectile dysfunction and it is such a sensitive and embarrassing and shameful issue for men, the comorbidity never gets treated. Instead, what happens is it continues to develop and the body continues to deteriorate and the erectile dysfunction gets worse over time. And so many times you find that by the time they decide to finally seek treatment for it, they find out that it was something that could easily have been taken care of, or alternatively, they may find out that it's a condition that should have gotten attention long before they showed up, like maybe some type of prostate cancer, which is well known to cause erectile dysfunction. How do you find out you have prostate cancer? You have to go get a prostate exam. And that's another thing that men are very reluctant to do. And so I think that that is probably what creates the biggest issue for the wife and in the relationship. It's the fact that she is completely helpless in the situation. She cannot make him seek help. It will be frustrating for her. It will create a lot of anger. She will probably, over time, the longer he waits to get help, she will develop resentment towards him. She starts resenting him. After a while, that resentment turns into, I don't care. And then I don't care turns into, I don't even know why I'm in this marriage. It just escalates and escalates and escalates while we wait for him to find the courage to do something about it. And I think that is probably the biggest impact that I have seen, in my work, or I have seen, in studies, or heard from other clinicians. It's usually that. It's the fact that he doesn't want to do anything about it. Most of the time, the wife will tell you, my problem isn't that he has ED. My problem is that he doesn't want to do anything about the ED. I'm not going to leave him because he has ED. I am leaving him because he doesn't want to address it. And so for me, from in my professional opinion, I think that's the biggest problem that you'd find the wife complaining about. Yeah, I will leave it at that.
I just wanted to add to what Therese was saying, and both Therese and Daleen, which is that very often I think the way we feel is because of our lack of education on the matter. And as she would have said, is that people would blame themselves, not knowing that it's probably some underlying issue. But also a lot of times people would confuse like a low libido with erectile dysfunction. When someone has a low libido, it's different when they just maybe have no desire for sex versus when they want to have sex but they cannot have sex. So when you know the actual core issue of that person, which is not that, hey, I'm not attracted to you anymore, or I don't feel like having sex with you. It's like, no, I want to, but I literally cannot. And when you know that a man still desires you, but it's out of his power to please you in the way that you would want to be pleased, I think that half of the problems within us would just evaporate because we would know that, hey, this is not me. So what's plan B? Let's look at alternatives. As she would have said, let's now look at which doctors are best suited for, for this situation. What are the other symptoms we're experiencing so we know which direction and which to go? Because one could be your blood pressure or your diabetes. As she said, the other could be, your the cancer, the prostate cancer. So it really depends. So once you actually educate yourself and get out of your feelings for just 2 seconds, I think that would help to better the situation as well.
I'm loving that.
Yes, and I agree. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Tess.
I was just going to say that an interesting thing to throw into this conversation here is some of the comorbidities that we see
Yes.
attached to erectile dysfunction, because people are so unaware
True.
of the fact that these lifestyle diseases, some of them are everyday lifestyle diseases that have an impact on your reproductive organs. Sometimes we're not even sure why they have this impact. There are some where we can definitely make a link, like, for example, persons who have cardiovascular issues, heart problems. We can see a direct link because cardiovascular issues mean that there's a blood flow issue. And blood flow issues will obviously create erection issues because it is the blood flow in the penis that gives you that erection. So we can make a direct connection between a man who has heart problems and his erectile dysfunction, but there are some other lifestyle diseases that there is no established connection. Nobody can specifically explain to you exactly why this is connected to that. But we know from evidence that they are connected.
Yes.
Things like diabetes, hypertension, or what we refer to as high blood pressure in the Caribbean. These are life's everyday lifestyle diseases that are directly linked to erectile dysfunction. And people are completely unaware of this. High cholesterol, that is also linked to erectile dysfunction. Imagine that. So if you go to a doctor and you are diagnosed with high cholesterol, you need to begin thinking immediately, what are the repercussions of this? Because one of the repercussions is ED, possibly. Another one that a lot of people do not know about, weight gain, also is directly linked to erectile dysfunction. If you are obese, or your BMI is just not where it should be, this could also impact your reproductive organs as well. And so there are so many just everyday lifestyle diseases and other issues that we have that could be impacting a man's ability to have an erection, and we are completely unaware, which is why if you have ED, you need to immediately seek attention for it, because 99% of the time it is not psychological. It is an organic issue. You could be saving your life. If you are having erectile dysfunction, for example, because there is a blood flow problem to the penis, it means that there could be a blood flow problem to other organs as well. That could kill you because your blood is your life. The oxygen that keeps you alive is traveling in your blood. So a blood flow problem can be fatal. It can stop your heart, quite literally. So um, we need to kind of divert the attention away from the penis when we have an ED problem. And that often makes it easier for a man to kind of swallow the pill and just go see a doctor and say, I'm not getting erections, and that I need a checkup. Most of the time, the doctor is going to check you up and you are going to hear there's absolutely nothing wrong with your penis, sir. However, there's something wrong with your heart. Or, however, your blood sugar is way too high. Or, whatever it may be. So go to the doctor. Like, that's the word of the day. Go to the doctor. you know.
Yeah, I agree with you, Therese, and that's why I believe that, um, that the wife need to be supportive, because we know how our husbands can be very stubborn, and sometimes how we address a topic or how we bring a topic to our husbands, we will either welcome it or shut it down. So we, as you said, we take it away from the sexual nature, the topic of the penis, and we share with him how it will affect his health and how it will affect us if he is not in the picture. So we share his importance in our lives. And I believe in doing so, like over time, it may not happen immediately, but with time and with further prodding of the wife, not one that is in your face type of thing. Oh, it's affecting me. I need to get this done, this and that and whatever. No, but gently go and speak to your husband about it, because it's a topic that hurts his very core. And so, because it's a topic that hurts his very core, you have to be able to decipher how you're going to approach your husband with it. And with that being said, hopefully over time your husband would agree that he needs to go to the doctor. You're not telling him to go because you want him to fix his erectile dysfunction, but you want him to go to check up on his health generally, something like that, and they would be more inclined to go. Yeah.
I just want to quickly add something before we address this next question, because I really love what Therese said about, obviously, and both Delene, what Delene just mentioned, that actually it's not just the erectile dysfunction, there are underlying issues. And what actually came to my mind was that very oftentimes the body, when it senses a threat, the first place it shuts down are the reproductive organs, and that's for males and females. So that's why oftentimes when women have problems with their periods, when they cannot conceive, the doctor will say stop stressing out, because when your body notices like, hey, something is going wrong, you'll start noticing that the parts of your body that are not as critical, those
Yeah.
will start to like, and I'm not saying that obviously a penis isn't critical, but I'm saying that your body doesn't need sex to survive. It goes to those organs, as she would have said. If there's something in your heart, if your body has to choose between your penis and your heart, it will choose your penis. So now, it will choose your heart. So now your penis has to suffer. So even with women that are trying to conceive, very often just the adrenaline and the stress and that is placed on the body, that will cause women sometimes to skip periods, have long periods, have short periods, bleed more. Even your hair will start shedding, your nails are getting brittle, because your body's like, I don't need your hair to grow to survive. I don't need your nails to grow to survive. Right now, I'm going to try to keep you alive. And once you get everything sorted out, I'll work on the other things that are secondary, which are your sexual, reproductive organs, and so on. So very often, that's just to say, as Therese would have said, it's a holistic issue. There's something that your body is prioritizing over your sexual organ. So you have to focus on that priority, and then everything else will fall into place.
Thank you very much, Joanna, Daleen, and Terrace for sharing. Jason.
I can add a little. I mean, I prefer to listen to the ladies on this topic. But one of the things I've realized, Shabiki, is that erectile dysfunction, as I said earlier, is a shameful experience for a man. And just going through it actually could shut down a man, like completely. Not just shut him down, but separate him from human beings. He doesn't want to really be in the presence of others, even though he's not showing up to discuss about erectile dysfunction. The fact that he's going through it is already that challenge of him socializing and reaching out. Now, many times we hear the saying that says, women, I wrote it down because I've heard it tonight, wives need to be supportive. And while I totally agree with that, we as men need to understand that the wives can only support what they know. Sometimes men do not go to their wives and explain to the wives what happened. Now, there's some people who are married, and if the guy is experiencing erectile dysfunction, what he does, he shut out his wife. So then the wife now start to blame herself for so many things, like, am I the problem? So what the wife start to do is look at herself in the mirror. What is wrong with the body? What's going on? Why is it the husband not attracted to me anymore? So she starts to see herself as a problem. Why? Because the man is so shameful to share it. He doesn't know how to share it. So coming to her is already difficult. So you have two set of challenges to deal with. She not getting the information, he not sharing because he's ashamed of it. I heard that, one of the things that can help is if a husband and wife has if they have what you call a comfortable zone, if the relationship is based on comfortability, where they can sit down and discuss anything, that helps. But remember, it's more than just comfort. It's not just about a man needs to feel comfort in his zone to talk about it. It is something that a man just doesn't feel comfortable talking about, period. So he has to work on himself to get to that point where he can share that with his wife, because it's like he's telling his wife, I have become less than a man. How can you now stick with me if I cannot have sex with you the way you want to have sex? So all of this thing is going through his mind. And as Dalen says, there's a time when women have that peak. He knows, oh gosh, if I was good, I would have wanted that peak. But now she's in that peak and I cannot do that. So what am I going to do? So all these things start to strain him. I would like to suggest to everybody who is online, as Joanna rightfully said, education is important. Knowledge of the topic is important. While you are dating, talk about it. Don't wait until you're married. Talk about it, because when I saw the research that says over 33, I think it's 33, 35, you all can correct me, 30 something million men in the states experiencing this erectile dysfunction. 30 something million. It's a lot of people. Now somebody might say the states have a lot of people, but 30 something million is a lot. That is just the states alone. It's a lot. So what I'm saying is that talk about it. Open the avenue so that discussion can take place, so that you know for a fact. Some ladies will tell you straight up in a discussion, hey, if you experience that I'm not sticking with you, we have to be wise, talk about the thing that affect us at the deepest core and move from there. And the last thing I want to say, Shibiki, erectile dysfunction should humble us as men. And you know why it should humble us? Because men sometimes put some demands over women that are just beyond. They're just beyond. Men force women to increase their boob size or sometimes to work on their behind. Because when a woman come into a general setting and men talking about women, we usually talk about the physical. We want a particular breast size. We want a particular behind size. And then that puts strain on the woman as well. So now that we know erectile dysfunction exists, we need to take it down a bit. Because just as how we want the ladies to be understanding of our problem, we should be understanding of the fact that they don't have that size breast or they don't have that size behind. So it got both ways. We have to give and take.
I love that. I love that. All right. So I need to go to the audience at this point in time. I know there's several comments. Pastor Manzano, welcome. And Pastor Manzano made several comments. Remember, when I put it up, you can feel free to, if you have a comment to make on it or whatever, you can do so. And then there's also a very important question from Vanessa. Let me put up Vanessa question for you to ponder on while I have the comments from Pastor Manzano. What is the best way that can a wife cope in this situation? What are some coping mechanism for her? Because we're looking at how it affects the wife holistically. All right. So while you ponder on that, the first comment from Pastor Manzano is this: the male's prowess and perception.
We were not hearing you just now, Madam Shibiki. Are you hearing us? Shibiki, are you hearing us?
All right. Seems like I was off a minute there. But nevertheless, so that's an excellent submission from Pastor Manzano there. And then this is another comment here. A man's value of his penis is also connected to the woman's desire for it. If a man has a woman who can love him irrespective of his shortcomings, he will eventually feel secure.
Can I say one point on that? And Pastor Manzano is fully correct. And I'm telling you from a male perspective. You know what actually kill a man? Any discussion that have to do with a penis from women. And especially if a man is in that room of that discussion and he doesn't add up to that level of discussion. When women come together and they start to talk about size of penis and they want a particular size, like for example, size 8, size 9, size 10, and poor boy realize he have a size 5, he start to feel a kind of a way inside. I have a friend who told me that the reason why he's not dating is because he's not comfortable with his size penis, because that's what women talk about. So that comment is very, very correct. It's not just about erectile dysfunction. Any target after that penis is like bringing down the White House and more. That is what it is, because that is our connection. You talk about that penis like bringing down the White House and more. So when we as men look at pornography And one of the things we need to understand is that pornography show what is outside of the norm. So what pornography will do, they will go and look for guys who have excessive size penises to basically go behind the camera. And even if they don't have the excessive side, it's a camera. So camera can increase what sometimes is not even there. So when you look at all of that on pornography and you look at all the women enjoying that size, and then you start to internalize, but I don't have that size. Will I be able to satisfy my woman when I get her and I don't have that size? What am I going to do? And you start to fret and you start to panic and you start to think, why? Because that penis is something that affects the core of every single man. Believe it or not, it affects the core. If a lady wants to kill a man dead, talk bad about the penis. Have sex with him and tell him, listen, what happened just there? I didn't feel anything. He's dead. If he have sex with you again, trust me, he forget about what happened yesterday. But that will kill his ego, because that is what bury us. So I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. There's a connection to the woman's desire for it, how she view it. So ladies, help us. When you're getting it from us, Lord, give us some signs that you're enjoying it. And it will buoy our spirit up. Okay, ladies, I'm just saying that, Terence. I'm just saying that.
I had to laugh because when Tara started shaking her head. Terence, what? All right, I don't know if anybody has any other comments to make on that, but there's another comment here, ladies. I'm saying ladies here. If you love someone because of his penis, that would be the problem when he has potency challenges. So ladies, I don't know how to internalize and interpret this question. Terence, I don't know if you have any comment.
I would like to respectfully disagree with Pastor Manzano, because whether a woman loves the man because of his penis or not, erectile dysfunction is going to create challenges.
Yeah.
It's I don't think it's about her loving him for the penis or not loving him for the penis. It's going to create a challenge. And it doesn't matter which way you turn it. It's going to create a challenge. It's going to be a hurdle that they will have to face together as a couple. And she could love the man with all her heart, penis or not. She loves him. Does that mean that if he has erectile dysfunction, it is not going to impact the relationship? No, it's going to impact them. Doesn't matter how in love they are. It's a challenge. And I feel like we need to stop undermining the importance of sex.
True.
In a marriage. We need to stop doing it. We need to stop doing this dance about, oh, it doesn't matter, the sex isn't important, you didn't marry him for the sex, you didn't marry him for the penis. No, you didn't. You married him because you love him. But if there's no sex in that marriage is going to go south real fast.
Definitely.
Real fast. People believe that the divorce rate is to be blamed on infidelity and incompatibility and all of the other illities that we throw around, when in fact statistics show that the two top reasons that people get divorced in the world today are money and sex. It is what it is. Money and sex, the two top reasons that people get divorced in this world. Infidelity is on the list. It's just lower down. A woman will stay with a man and forgive him if he has been unfaithful. They can work it out. Marriages come back from infidelity all the time. They do. They hardly ever come back from an empty bank account. Rarely. She will leave you for spending all of the savings quicker than she will leave you for cheating. It's wild, but it's true. And she's
Mm.
also more likely to leave you if you are not able to perform in the bedroom, and particularly if you're choosing not to do something about it. If it is a situation that goes on for 2 weeks, fine. But what we often see as clinicians is that there is an ED issue that is protracted. That means it has been going on for like a year, 2 years, 3 years. It may be off and on. It's not a matter that there has been absolutely no sex for 3 years, but perhaps he is incapable of performing on a consistent basis. And so you may find that their sex life is now maybe once a month. Their sex life is whenever he can get it up, which may be once a month, it may be once every 2 months, whatever it is. And she will, and I am not telling you these things off the top of my head. This is what happens. And she may stay there, and a year goes by, and 2 years go by, and 3 years go by, and eventually she will get fed up.
Of
She
course.
will leave after a while. Does that mean that she married him for his penis? No, it means that her quality of life has been significantly impacted. It means that the vision that she had for marriage is not that. And so she is walking away because that is not that is not the life that she wants for herself. And that's not to say that the marriage cannot come back from that. Marriages can come back from anything. If the two people want the marriage can come back from anything. But I'm just making the point that these are the things that usually cause the destruction more often than many of the other things that we think are the primary causes of divorce nowadays. So that is my perspective on that.
But I
Beautiful.
can only imagine, right, that because of his inability to perform, he also becomes withdrawn. And if he becomes withdrawn, that negatively immediately impacts that marriage. So you're left in a corner, as we would have stated earlier, not knowing what to do. So I would just suggest in that case, while we are looking for options, while we are trying to get a diagnosis to see what it actually is, to just enjoy each other in non-sexual ways, just to be friends again, hug each other again. If that aspect cannot happen before whatever the underlying issue is treated, let us just love on each other the way we did before we were probably even sexually active. But at the end of the day, I completely understand what Therese is saying, because you have to understand when you are trying as a man, I can only think if a man is not going to be affectionate or try to engage in anything that could lead to sex if he knows he cannot finish what he's trying to start. Because I think in a man's mind, when you start to be very sexual and cuddly and huggy and thing, it should lead to something else. But he knows and he cannot get to this something else. So why start something that you can't finish? So in his mind, let me just keep my place. Let me just take a few steps back. And that will impact a marriage. So even though she is not getting the sex, still the person that she married is a totally different person, a totally different person now. Because now it's not only about the fact that he's not having sex with her. He's not talking. He's not being himself. He is withdrawn. So the entire marriage now is impacted. So it's not just that she married him because of his penis, but the person that she married, she cannot recognize anymore. Because as we would have stated previously, everything in his life revolves around that manhood. So the person that you knew that was loving and kind and attentive, all of that takes a back seat because right now I'm stressed. Right now I don't even know who I am anymore. So it's not just the sex, it's everything around that person. It's who that person was, that person's personality. Everything is changing. So let's not just minimize it to the sex. The sex is just the latter part of the problem.
Shibiki, can I just say one thing?
Go right ahead.
Let me tell you something. From the Christian perspective, you go to church, Therese, and they tell you you cannot have sex before marriage. It is scripted. It's in the Bible, right? You should not be involved sexually outside of marriage. Okay. Now, when I love a girl from a man's point of view, I love a girl, yes, but I love the fact that I can have physical connection and communion, and I also will and should have sexual connection and communion. I'm telling you from a man's point of view. If I enter marriage with a woman and sex is something that is stifled, as Joanna rightfully says, I cannot see that woman for what I thought she was anymore. Because my desire is one that includes sex. And a lot of people don't understand a man's number one desire is sex, you know. As far as I know, and if you look at all the research out there, they will tell you it is sex. That is a man's number one desire. That is why it hit home so hard for a man too. His number one desire is sex, right? So the challenge that comes with this is this. Loving somebody to me come with a package. Sex is a statement that is automatic because you do not do it when you are dating. You do almost everything else except having sex. And the only thing really that you do while married is sex per se, you know, if you look at it. And if that only thing that I waited for so long in marriage is no longer there, it's going to be a problem. And what I realized, I have plenty females, and I have some of them who are experiencing being with some guys who have ED. And that's why I'm talking from that point of view. And that conversation it hits home and it hits hard. Because when ladies will tell you, boy, hey, listen, I love him, you know, but I'm praying. If you can deal with something, it means that daily you reach to the point where you can pray and leave it and forget it and move on. But that thing is still in the back of the head. And every time that moment of wanting to have sex come up, that thing is going to race. These are some of the things that these ladies share with me. It's difficult. It's real difficult. Sex is a valuable thing in marriage. Valuable. And I think that's why, you know, disconnecting it can be very, very difficult.
All right. Thank you so much for the various submissions on this topic. If you realize I'm trying to not to say anything more, just to be here. I'm being in the capacity of as a host this evening, and I'm staying here. However, I just want to add one thing. I know Jason alluded to it earlier concerning the stats, the 30 million. But this afternoon I was listening on to another podcast on what a tech talk on erectile dysfunction, and they say they project by 2025 they will have about 300 million men suffering from this problem by 2025. And for me, that was so appalling because, I mean, it's 30 million right now, but if in the next 3-4 years, we're talking about 300 million men,
wasn't it 30 million only in the US though?
Well, yeah, of course it's a
and
stat based.
I'm assuming 300 will be worldwide.
But I'm not certain if it's worldwide. They didn't conclude if it's worldwide, but they just give that figure, 300 million.
But because it cannot be just the US. The US doesn't even have, I don't think, 300 million men.
It would be worldwide.
But even if it's my dear, is how many people they say around the world? 6 billion.
Nonetheless, it's still a lot. We're not negating that.
Lot. It's a whole lot, right? And so this is hard. So let me just take maybe 2 more comments, and then we're going to continue with the question in line. Oh, by the way, Vanessa, we are going to address, because of the nature of your question, we are going to leave your question as the last thing we want to address before we leave the panel here this evening. The coping mechanism for women or whoever may be going through this very same situation. Dr. Shaw here said that there's Safe Christian publications that speaks about the male menopause and ed that addresses this topic. And I think she placed that there because of the fact, according to her, when you're receiving emails about different over-the-counter drugs and everything. So basically, she wants to put that caution light there. So I'm thinking about this because if she would have deleted 2,183 ed messages, think about the amount of persons who it's been affected. That's why they're constantly sending out these ads so that men perhaps can be helped. And the question now, I'm thinking about Domien's question because we focus a lot about the wives supporting. And of course, we know that nobody can support anybody if they don't know that they have a problem. And Domien Everson would have had this question here. If it's a problem if the husband seek help by himself.
I personally would not recommend that. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wouldn't recommend that. I just feel like you're not the only one going through it. I mean, at the end of the day, the couple has to decide. If the wife decides that only the man will go, that's up to them. But personally, I would not I would not encourage that, because I think that when you go through it together, you are healing, you are becoming educated, you are becoming informed, you are feeling, it actually could bring you closer together rather than doing it on your own, because you have to understand that this is not only affecting the man, it's also affecting the woman. And she could be there not just for moral support, but just to help him, guide him through everything, so that maybe if he has to take medication, she can remind him, like, hey, you have to take this today. But if he's the only one that knows everything and is aware of everything, it could not be the most ideal situation. So personally, I would say it's better for couples to do it together.
All right. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Dawn.
I agree with Joanna. You see, lack of knowledge, it leads to assumptions. And assumptions in a marriage is detrimental to a positive environment in that marriage. It's detrimental to the marriage on a whole. So when you and your husband can come together and talk about this issue together, the value of communication in that marriage, it goes a long way. The man doesn't feel like he have to go through it alone, nor the woman feels as though she is helpless. So it is, I would say personally, it's a problem if the husband seeks help by himself. I mean, he can go and seek help, yes, but without including the wife or telling the wife that he is experiencing such, or what he is going through mentally, how is it affecting his mind, his relationship, how he interacts with the outside world. Nothing is wrong with him going to the doctor by himself, if that's the question. But if you're saying that you're going to keep it to yourself fully without involving the wife, then I see a problem with that.
All right. Thank you very much, Daleen.
I have a different twist. Forgive me.
Go right ahead, Jason.
No, I have no, no. By the way, I agree with you all, but I have a different twist because I know from a man's point of view what erectile dysfunction possibly can do to a man. For example, I think it's possible for him to go to the doctor if, for example, he realized he got up and 2 days and he not, experiencing an erection, which of course he almost usually does. I think it's possible for him to go to a doctor and have a dialogue with the doctor, and then that dialogue can lead to the fact that the doctor asking him, how have your days been going? And it can be like he's overworked, he's stressed. I'm coming daily in. He's overworked, he's stressed, and all those things. And he can just have a temporary erectile dysfunction, which definitely don't need that much of an alarm. Because I think what happened is that coming together and discussing it with the wife, it is good. I am not going against the point, but I'm just taking it now from the angle of a man not wanting to come to that level of vulnerability. And somebody might say, but it's okay in a marriage. Yes, it's okay in a marriage, but it's not okay in a man's head when he can come to his wife and say, listen, I am experiencing this. So if I was in that position, let me personalize it. If I was in that position and I go to the doctor and to seek help, Therese, I'm taking your point there. I go to the doctor to seek help, and the doctor tells me that, listen, what you're experiencing is probably the result of stress. You're probably overworking a lot at the USC or whatever the case. Slow down, go and rest. You know what I would have done? I would have immediately gone and tried to get vacation so that I can relax myself. If I realize nothing at all happened as a result, then I will say, okay, cool. Then I should tell my wife what's really happening. Because if I don't tell her, then she'll want to know, how come we are accustomed to have sex like 2, 3, 4 times a week and nothing is happening, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks going, what's happening? So I think it's possible for him to seek help by himself, bearing in mind that it's totally temporary and it's attached to one of those stressful or probably anxiety or probably depression, one of those causes and so on. But I think it's possible. I think it's possible. While I understand what the ladies are saying, I think it's possible. Paris, you can go because Shibiki, I think, got logged off.
Yes. Yeah, I hear what I hear Drayson's line of logic. I can see that Daleen is completely like, no, I am not. I'm not on that wagon with you, Drayson. But I see Drayson's I see his thought process there. Um, and I see how that could possibly perhaps save the wife some unnecessary stress, perhaps unnecessary turbulence in their relationship. Um, but my question would be how can he guarantee that it is indeed a short term, easy fix solution, and that just taking a vacation is going to rectify the problem? So it's I see how it could be beneficial, but I am also seeing how that could be a slippery slope, and
Terence, would you say that if the
how that
doctor would
could
have given a
backfire.
diagnosis,
I'm
that he could
sorry.
have gone that route? Would you then say that if the doctor maybe gave a diagnosis and said, okay, this can be resolved quickly, that he should then keep it to himself?
I still would not encourage that he keep it to himself. I speak from the perspective of a clinician. I speak from the perspective of a wife as well. I want to know what medications my husband is on. I want to know what he is taking, because if anything happens to him,
Hmm.
the paramedics are not going to call his doctor or call his mom. They're going to call me. And they are going to ask questions like that. Does he have any allergies? Is he on any medications? And I need to be able to respond. I should not be in the dark about those things. It's also important to state that medications can have adverse side effects. What if he has some adverse reaction to one of the medications that the doctor has put him on, and I have absolutely no idea that he's on this medication or what it is? How can I assist? I have no idea, what is happening to him. So, I like I said, I feel like this could turn into a very slippery slope. I think it is always safest to communicate, you know.
I love that. Beautiful,
No, I
beautiful.
totally agree. I totally agree. And I am not encouraging the husband to be secretive. Y'all don't get me wrong. I am not saying he should be secretive. But I mean, if he has been diagnosed and he has to take any form of medication and so on, then he definitely needs to have a conversation with his wife. I would have had a conversation with her probably if the doctor tell me go home to rest. Just rest. Just go home to rest and see what happened. If my boy jump back up, I'm gonna say, girl, you won't understand what happened to me there. And then we will just have a conversation. You understand? I'm not suggesting he should be keeping the information away from her, but he can go to the doctor, speak with the doctor, realizing, hey, your issue is just temporary. All you need to do is rest. You have been working, 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 working. Just rest, relax yourself, and then that is what I'm suggesting. But I'm not ever into the fact that there should be any secretive aspect taking place.
All right. Thank you for all these submissions thus far. For those of you who just joined us, welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you. All right. I think there's one more comment. Okay. Yeah, this final comment from Pastor Manzano here. And I have to start from the one before. The issue of sex is always more challenging for the man because he gets the erection, not the woman. And when you make him feel that the endurance of the relationship is dependent on his erection, you have already begun to negatively impact his mind. I don't know if anybody has anything to say along that line. If not,
It feels to me as if Pastor Manzano missed the first half of the discussion because we addressed that very comment.
yes,
I think we already spoke to that.
that's right. All right. So thank you so much. And so we're going to go.
Can I just give one point pertaining to
Sure.
this? I would like to advise all the young men here because I do it often. I do it often, Terence. Learn about your body. Young men, we have to learn about us. We have to know the basics. We have to know that if having sex with a woman, it takes a man technically 5 minutes to reach his peak and to get an orgasm. It takes a lady much more than that. Probably ladies tell me, how long? You all are here. How long does it take? I know it's not 5 minutes. You understand? It takes a lady longer. So my thing is, and that is why we as men need to understand that if it takes a lady longer, she requires more. She requires more in terms of Teres, help me, in terms of
She requires more stimulation. She requires
correct.
more foreplay.
Mhm.
Arousal.
You know,
Correct. A man doesn't really need foreplay, you know. A lady requires that. So what I'm saying is that in all of this discussion, and this is my mindset when it comes to sex, you're going to sex to satisfy your wife, not to satisfy you. You're going to satisfy your wife. That means if my wife takes 30 minutes to get a first orgasm, I supposed to be riding the train 30 minutes for her to get it. And that's what it is. If I cannot ride the train to 30 minutes, that means I am there for my benefit. You have to be there to satisfy your wife, and the wife has to be there to satisfy the male. When both
Yes.
of them give, both of them receive. The minute you go in and you start to satisfy yourself, you'll hear all these talks like I'm not enjoying the sex, or you're not satisfying me good, or you're not touching me where you need to touch me, and whatever. Satisfying the wife also includes learning those parts of the wife's body that will bring her to a level of total excitement and you know that kind of a feeling that ladies, you know, that you all receive. You understand? So it's all about sitting down, reading. I'm not a psychologist, but I read plenty because I strongly believe that knowledge informs and knowledge moves to wisdom, because wisdom is application of knowledge. And that is what I do. I read plenty and I try to have that broad perspective of all of these things so that when I enter, I have an idea of what is required.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jason. Sorry, Joanna.
No, it's okay.
And I guess that's one of the what can you say, bright lights about erectile dysfunction is that it opens up avenues to um to look at other ways to satisfy each other sexually. So it's not just about penetration, you know. There are so many other avenues, you know, in Christian context, of course, and worldly as well, as there's so many out there that a husband and wife could engage in that can satisfy them both. So yeah.
Yeah, so Pastor Manzano just responded and he said that he did miss the first half. So just to give you a quick recap, what we meant, which is why we knew that you misunderstood Teresa's comment, is because we earlier we stated that it's not about just this sexual organ. There are usually underlying issues, and when we approach our spouse or our partner with those underlying issues, and we let them know that, hey, it's not just your erectile dysfunction here. It's usually something like, as we would have stated, diabetes, prostate cancer, cardiovascular diseases, whatever not. So usually it's not about us saying, hey, we want to opt out just because you can no longer have an erection. This should We are educating each other right now and saying that there are medical issues. Erectile dysfunction is hardly ever just your penis having the inability to get an erection. And secondly, someone would have also asked, because I think we could just
Yeah.
recap one time, someone would have also asked if it's because the husband is not sexually attracted. No, that is not erectile dysfunction, because that means that if he looks at someone else he's attracted to, he can still get an erection. So it's not about having a low libido or low desire for your wife. You literally have the inability to ever have an erection. Well, obviously, granted that there's an underlying issue, but you have the inability to either attain or maintain an erection, whether or not you like it or not, whether or not you desire your wife or not, whether or not you want to have sex or not. And for men with ED, which is erectile dysfunction, these men want to have sex, but they cannot. So it's not an issue of desirability. It's not an issue of low libido. This is a medical condition. So we want to just differentiate between that so we can proceed.
All right. Thank you very much, Joanna, for summing it up nicely there. And so this is a question that had me for the entire day. I thought about it. I pondered on it. And I really want to hear your responses on this question here. And by the way, this question in particular was asked by someone, and it says, does erectile dysfunction warrant a divorce, or should love be the pillar of the relationship in spite of? And that person was especially alluding to the fact that very, very early in marriage, you just got married, and then afterwards, where you thought perhaps the person could have, you waited and everything, and then you discovered that the person cannot function. So they're asking, does erectile dysfunction warrant a divorce, or should love be the pillar of the relationship in spite of? And let me just put in this piece, given the fact that the Bible would have said that we should only divorce in the case of adultery. So let's talk on that.
Married people come and jump around.
I let me jump in on this. This is a question that has that I could respond in so many ways. I am going to speak from the perspective of a clinician who works with couples all the time. And the first thing I will say is that marriage can come back from anything. I will start with that. Marriage can come back from anything. I have seen it. There is no hurdle that is too high for a couple to jump over if they really want to stay together. I have seen marriages being salvaged from the worst of situations, like they were really in a bad way. The key ingredient to saving a marriage is not a good psychotherapist. That's not the key ingredient. The key ingredient is that the two people must want it. If you have that, then you come to me, we can save the marriage. It doesn't matter what's wrong with it. If you want it, it can be salvaged. So I will start with that. And that includes erectile dysfunction. So no situation automatically equals divorce. You can come back from anything. You just have to want to save that marriage. And if you truly want to save that marriage, then you will do what is required of you to save that marriage. So that's the first thing I will say. So I guess the first answer is no. Erectile dysfunction does not automatically equal divorce. I would, however, like to follow up that with a second part to my response, and I will say this. Love alone cannot sustain any marriage. I repeat, love alone cannot sustain a marriage. And people need to be told this long before they get married. They need to be told this from the moment they decide that they want to get engaged. They need to be told this from the moment they're interested in dating. Love alone cannot sustain a marriage. Love is important, but you also need so many other things in order for that love to thrive. I could love you, but you are not supportive of my purpose in life, my calling, my gift. I could love you, but we have two very different mindsets where it comes to how family finances should be handled. I could love you, but we are on two totally different pages, or maybe in two totally different books where it comes to how children should be parented. I could love you, but spiritually, I am here and you are over there somewhere. All of these things, and I could keep going. All of these things accumulate in order for the love that I have for you to thrive. But standing on its own, just love alone, nothing else, that is a recipe for disaster. And people need to learn this long before they even contemplate marriage, because many persons go into marriage thinking that as long as they love, that is enough, and they cannot make it work. And that is because there's nothing there to sustain the love that they have. You can't eat love. You cannot go to the bank and pay your bills with love. So if you love a man, but the man is lazy or has no ambition, that is going to go south. That's just a random example. There's so many other examples I could pull out. And I could love you, but you have 100 childhood traumas that you have never processed, that you refuse to even acknowledge. And all of those childhood traumas that you are walking around and living with are making you dysfunctional. You are incapable of proper communication. You are incapable of conflict resolution. You are incapable of maintaining proper interpersonal relationships with other human beings in general. So I am now panicked because I don't know what type of father you will be to my children, but I love you. Where are you going with that? Love alone isn't going to cut it. It never has, and it never will. That's just the real. So that's the part 2 to the question. So part 1, marriage can be saved from anything. You just have to want it. But part 2, you need a lot more than love to make a marriage work. So that is my very long and complicated response.
Thank you very much, Therese. Thank you very much. So the married people still jumping around, right? I'm going to use Joanna's terminology here.
What can I add to what Therese just said? Wow, I just love to hear you speak. On the context of what you said, the question, the context was that someone who just got married waited and has found out from her now husband that he's suffering from erectile dysfunction. My view is that it depends on the couple's understanding of each other, their cognitive ability at that point in time. Communication is also important. If they have a conversation with each other and decides that's not what they want, then I can't disagree with them getting divorced because both of them don't want it. The man might say, okay, it's unfair for my wife. She's young. If it is not treatable, because most erectile dysfunctions can be treated and a man could be restored. Correct me if I'm wrong, Therese. And a man can be restored if she is willing to wait for that treatment to work and then work along with her husband, support her husband, then yes, the marriage can work. But if she doesn't, it doesn't make sense for her to stay in that marriage and be miserable. Okay? Because it would break up eventually. That's my take. Go ahead, Terry.
Yes, I want to speak on that. First of all, let's start from the beginning. And I'm speaking from the perspective of a marriage and family therapist here again. So, first of all, let's just establish that that is illegal. Let me start with that. Because if that young lady walked into my office, that's the first thing I would tell her. He broke the law. Did you know that? It's against the law. I'm going to tell you why.
I was going to say that as well, that he should have been upfront with her.
Yes.
In the beginning, yes.
The reason why that is illegal is because when you are about to embark on a marriage is a legally binding contract. It's a spiritual covenant too, of course. It is. but it is also a legally binding contract. You sign a document which is filed in the high court of the country that you live in to say that you are legally bound to this person. And there are certain clauses within that contract that makes it either a valid contract or can completely nullify the contract.
Mhm.
One of the things that nullifies that contract is if the marriage is not consummated.
Yes, yes, yes.
The law, and this isn't the church that requires this, it is the law of the land that requires it. The marriage is not considered legal until it has been consummated. And so, if and until the marriage is consummated, you don't even need a divorce. A
Yeah.
justice of the peace can annul that marriage. It will be as if it never happened, because
Yes.
according to the law, it did not exist because it was never consummated. That's the first thing. The
So, Sarah,
second,
just before you go to the second one, can you tell me? I remembered reading once, in terms we have 3 days in terms of annulling the marriage. This is the same rule that applies right now if you're not consummated within this 3 days span.
as far as I know, I would
Okay.
have to check, but
Okay.
as far as I know, it's still 3 days,
Okay.
and you need to consummate the marriage. What does consummate the marriage means? It means you have to have sex. There must
Definitely.
penetration. That's what the law considers to be sex. Okay? That's the first point I wanted to make. It is also illegal because before you get to the point where you sign that legally binding contract, the marriage officer or the pastor or whoever the clergy is that marries you is required by law to ask you a specific question before they have you sign the paper. They are supposed to ask you, is there anything that prevents you, or that you should declare now before we proceed with this marriage? Declare it now. Is there anything? I don't remember exactly how it's worded. Pastor Manzano is there. He should know. I'm sure he has married plenty of people. Pastor Manzano can help me out. What's the wording? What's the question that you are required to ask the couple before you actually do perform the ceremony and before they sign the paper? And there is another time where they are also required to ask if anybody knows
Of
of
any
any
church meeting.
reason why these two should not be joined together. Speak now. They don't ask those questions just because they're trying to be funny. The law requires them to ask you those questions. Because if anybody does stand up and speak and say that there is any impediment, they cannot go through with that because they would be breaking the law.
Yeah.
And so it is at that point that that young man would have been required to open his mouth and say, I am not in the position to consummate this marriage. That is
Hmm.
an impediment. That is
Hmm.
considered an impediment because it prevents you from following through on something that is required to make the contract legally valid. So that's just all up and down wrong in 100 ways. I would encourage her right away to find the nearest high court and annul that marriage. And the reason I would do it is because this man can't be trusted.
Yes.
I wouldn't advise her. I'm telling you what I would tell her if she came into my office for therapy. This is what I would tell her. You need to get out of this and you need to get away from him. And I'm not advising her to get away from him because he can't get an erection. I'm advising her to get away from him because he clearly cannot be trusted.
Deception. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
deception
Mm-hmm.
at the most obscene level. That is
Yes.
deception. I would tell her, do not Do not join your life to this man. You cannot, you can't close your eyes with this man. This man will betray you. And he has proven it before you even made it to the altar. He's lying to you about something so significant. And you will blindly enter a marriage with a man who cannot have sex with you, and you just watch. You're helpless. You can't do anything. That is no. That's just a big fat no for me.
Guys, I received a private question. I think this is the perfect time to plug it in. Someone asked me privately if the use of sex toys is permissible. I have nothing to say.
Why not?
When it comes
I will say it
dysfunction.
since nobody wants to say it. Why not?
Jonathan is laughing.
I'm just stating my perspective here.
I think honestly, but Shabiki, that question, I think honestly, it has to do with the husband and wife decision. I still strongly believe that the bed is undefiled. If a husband and wife want to use anything to spice up their relationship, there are boundaries, of course. You don't cross those boundaries, but you do whatever you want. If I am in my room, there is no book that says I have to have sex a particular way. There is no manual that says that. If I have a chandelier in my room and I want to experience my wife swing on the chandelier, that is our business. We close our windows and we do our thing. I think the same thing with sex toys. If the husband and wife agree, the challenge comes with that is when the wife wants to use it and the husband doesn't. Or the husband wants to use it and the wife doesn't, and that is where the challenge comes. But
The only challenge that I personally see is when it's sometimes when you cannot have it, you cannot enjoy each other without it. And when you are dependent upon that object to give you whatever satisfaction you need. So if it's supplemental, it's one thing. But if it's something that you cannot be without, I think that's when you're entering into a danger zone, because in and of itself, you guys should be able to, fulfill each other's needs. And if you want to add something to that, that's different than when you need that in order to have that connection.
And that's correct. And that's why the question asks if it can be used. They never ask if the toys will become a takeover. You know what happens when you take something over? You redefined stuff.
It's
So if you
purpose,
take
yes.
something over, there is a
Redefine its
different
purpose.
definition that is given to what things were. That is what taking over mean. It's just like, for example, what porn will do to a husband when it comes to not feeling satisfied from his wife anymore because he wants that pornographic scene to be centered in order for him to enjoy himself. Porn, in that case, would have been taken over. You understand? So I strongly believe, again, I will tell husband and wife their boundaries, to find out what those boundaries are medically. We know the anus is not supposed to be involved in those things. Find out these things medically, and then you enjoy each other. You have sex is to be enjoyed. My aim is to satisfy my wife. And my wife aim, hopefully, I hope in Jesus' name, will be to satisfy me. So you know what will happen after that episode? I am there laying down and say, God, thank you for sex. And my wife doing the same thing when them outside saying, but they just use a toy. They're so sinful. What's going on with them? We just enjoyed it. You understand? It's between two of us. And I think that to me, that's where it goes.
That's the question I want to ask. Who is going to know what you and your husband are doing?
Yes. Exactly.
Nobody's going to know except the two of you. And so
Well,
even if you are, let's say the two of you love toys to the point where you don't want to have sex anymore without toys, whose problem is that? Whose problem is that, literally? Is it the pastor's problem? The church? Who cares?
The neighbor who listening.
The neighbor. What do we want to be in people's bedroom for? It's none of your business.
I agree with you, Therese.
Let the people do what they want in their bedroom.
It's between the husband and the wife.
if Joanne, as Joanne was saying, they become addicted to the toys and they can't have sex without the toys. I don't care. I don't. Why do we care? If they, as a husband and wife, come to the conclusion that, hey, we can't have sex without these toys anymore because the toy is so sweet, we can't do without it. Should we maybe go see a therapist and work this out, or should we just continue having fun with the toys? I don't care. Why do you care? What? I don't understand why we like to be up in people's bed grass. For
But
what?
Therese, let me just add part there. Now we need to
Seriously.
be very careful that we are not sharing our bedroom with others. Sometimes
Yes.
people get involved because of what you give them. You sit down, and I am not saying, ladies, I strongly believe, I strongly believe. I'm not a woman, but I strongly believe, and I hope no child is on thing, but I strongly believe after you would have had a good piece of sex, it gives you something to actually relax and want to talk about. But you need to be very careful as to how much you tell others. And the same thing with men. We have to be careful because our bedrooms are located in a specific place in the house. And I'm sure that when things are happening, lights are off or the curtains are up. So it keeps eyes from entering. So if people still entering our bedroom, it means that people are giving out information that they're not supposed to give out. And one last thing, and I'm telling you how dangerous this is. I remember, and Joanna knows, there was a public discussion that I had one time with a lady, and our discussion was simple. Discussion was based on the fact that there's so many women out there who are complaining that they're not being satisfied in the bed. I never asked her if she's being satisfied. That was our general discussion. But her response was, I know what they're talking about because right now my husband not even doing anything to help me. And I'm just done with this sex thing. And I'm saying, but you're giving too much details. So we need to be very careful as to what we share with others, because in sharing, we are also damaging our partner. So we need to be very careful.
I see somebody in the comment section asking if oral intercourse and what toy is allowed. You see, these are the questions. Why do you need to ask? That's what I was just saying. Why do you need to ask anybody? So which toy can my wife and I use? Can we do this? Or can we do that? Is this allowed? Listen, my brother, it's not their business. Do whatever you want with your wife. Nobody's going to know what you're doing with your wife unless you tell them. And it's not their business. It's not. Oh my goodness.
I think the point of
I'm going to mute
Theresa's
my mic
those
triggered, by the way.
because
questions,
this is.
Theresa's seriously triggered right now.
yeah,
Yes.
I think the
Yes.
point of asking those questions is for excitement. Is for to go away with, or she said that we could use this toy or not. But it's up to you and your wife. It has nothing to do with us. You have that discussion with you and your wife, or your wife and your husband, and whatever you decide. If you don't want to use it, you don't want to use it. If you want to use it, then go right ahead. We can't tell you yes, we can't tell you no.
And that's a solid point. As far as I know, there is no manual that says if you do certain things that it is wrong. People need to be excited about this thing and do whatever it takes to make sure your wife is happy, and your wife do whatever it takes to make sure your husband is happy. That is how I see it.
I found this comment very, very. I find it very
I
funny.
love Pastor Mansano, you see. I love Pastor Mansano. Pastor Mansano is a man after my own heart. Just imagine when you finish using the toy, God says, well done. I mean,
I think we need to be sure that this is not a sarcastic comment.
I know, right?
Let's just make that be
No,
no,
but even if
no,
it's
I don't
sarcastic,
believe
it's
so.
good sarcasm because that's what it is. I mean, you know what I find very strange, and I'm going to be honest with you. If God had sex to be done a specific, particular way, just like how He gave us the 10 Commandments, He would have
Would have
given us
given it.
that direction.
Definitely.
There was no way in terms of the Bible says that Adam knew his wife. We don't know what Adam did.
No.
We don't know if Adam decided to go on the tiger back with his wife. We don't know. So what I'm trying to say is that we cannot sit down here and try to tell people what you should use, what you shouldn't use, how long you should do it, when you should do it, where you should do it, whatever. Some people like it in the kitchen. Some people like it where. Let married people do their thing. That is just my thing. Once you are not feeling guilty about what you're doing and you're not feeling as though that God is holding something over you, enjoy yourself. The married bed is undefiled. That is your right. Do your thing. That is just my take on that whole thing.
They tell you wait until you get married to have sex. After you get married, then they're telling you how to have the sex. What could...
That's crazy, Therese. That's crazy.
Let's
You
pause
guys
a
stop
while.
triggering Therese. Stop triggering Therese.
And Therese is a married woman, so she knows.
So to all individuals on YouTube, remember, if you have not subscribed us yet to this YouTube channel, please do so. Next week, we're not even certain if next week we'll get to air this program on Facebook, but ensure for a fact that you subscribe, you click the notification bell, you share this link to adults, persons who you know can take in this conversation, because until now, we're sitting here, we're talking, and I'm thinking that, I said, I wonder how many Christians who are sitting by listening to this program want to know, like, Shibiki, why you bring these guests to talk about this big hot topic and everybody is so open and so vocal about it? But hey, come on, it's time. It needs to be discussed. We have been way too silent on these issues. And, I was pondering, I'm like sitting for all the years as a church leader. Like, I can't remember one session we dealt with erectile dysfunction. Why? Why are we so silent on it? So next week we have another part, so you can't afford to miss next week either. So subscribe while you're listening, like the video, share. Feel free at any point in time to comment. You can also private message me your questions. If you look at the video we posted today, just type in Issues in Focus with Shibiki Vivos. There's a short video clip posted today. There's my email, issuesinfocus2020@gmail.com. You can send your private questions, and trust me, we will have persons like Therese, who's a counselor, and trust me, we are talking here not just about a counselor. We're talking about a spiritual, frank counselor. While she adds spiritual component to it, she is extremely practical about the different methodologies and whatever she shares with you. So feel free to send your questions, and we will have experts who will be able to address your concern. All right, back to our discussion. I know it's about wrapping up time. So I want to know, let me see. Oh, Kishore Frank said this. Maybe they want to hear from others the options they have when it comes to toys. Asking if they should is just an opener to the conversation.
Correct.
Right. And then we see Pastor Glendon Hercules agreeing with Dr. Manzano. If Pastor Manzano, if you were being sarcastic with that comment, you see how many persons you have agreeing and endorsing what you're saying, right? So I don't think he is sarcastic there.
I think that was a good bull.
Pastor Manzano wasn't being sarcastic at all. Pastor Manzano was just dropping it like it is.
I want to believe so.
So there's another comment, whatever you do it to the glory of God. All right, so let's go to Vanessa's closing, Vanessa's question that she had, the closing question that I want to put on the table here, even as we wrap up this.
Vicky, there was one more question I saw from Anne-Marie that you didn't highlight.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that reminder. And Mrs. Charles asks this question: what is the difference between erectile dysfunction and ejaculation dysfunction? What is the difference? Maybe we have two responses from you guys.
As far as I know, I guess maybe she's referring to premature ejaculation, which should be
I think that's what she's talking about.
Yeah, you can get an erection, but you just ejaculate. I think it's like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm not sure what the medical definition is for when you actually have premature ejaculation, but let's just say 2 minutes. And the other situation is that, as we said, you can, in some cases of ED, you can get the erection, but you cannot maintain it for a very long time. So sometimes it sounds similar, I guess, because by the time you would have wanted to ejaculate, you get soft already. And in the other case, you do have the hardness, but you just come very quickly. I guess that's my definition of the
Yeah.
difference.
That's the basic difference. Erectile dysfunction is when you are incapable of getting an erection, or you get an erection but you can't sustain the erection. You can't keep it for a long time. That's erectile dysfunction. Premature ejaculation or ejaculation dysfunction, as she referred to it, is not, it's not an erection problem. You don't have a problem getting an erection. You get an erection if you want it. The issue is that you are ejaculating before you want to ejaculate. And that is referred to as premature ejaculation.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much on that. Um, all right. So, well, at least our question has been answered whether Pastor was being sarcastic or not. And he would have placed this up. I don't
See,
approve of toys.
And that's what I like.
Pastor,
You know what I like about that
Pastor.
response is that the response has a personal pronoun. That's what
Yeah.
I like. Nothing is wrong. If somebody doesn't want it, whatever, it's okay. But I think it's gonna be unfair for us as panelists to come and tell people that you cannot use toys, especially when there is no guideline as to how, or no manuscript as to how sex is to be done. And that is just my take. I might have my personal say. I might say, listen, I don't want that in my bedroom. My wife might say, listen, we don't need that either. You understand? So nothing is wrong with having a personal point on whether or not you should use it.
Yeah, that's why I was saying what you do, you and your husband or your wife in your bedroom is,
Up to
why
you.
do it's just between the two of you? Why do we feel like we need to bring this to a public forum, or we need to bring it to church, or we need to bring it to the pastor to check and see if what we're doing is okay with the pastor? That is wild to me. Like, that is outrageous. It is nobody's business what you are doing in your bedroom. Do what you want.
No wonder why people don't
And
bother
finally,
sharing outside.
one thing, Shabiki, I saw
Go
you
ahead.
just you took down a comment where somebody said they want to refer. If you can put that comment
Go
back
ahead.
up quickly.
Sure.
They said, I can refer you to testimonies on sexual behavior, adultery, and divorce. I've read that multiple times. I don't just come on a panel and just talk blank shots. What I'm saying is that there is no manuscript for having sex. We were guided in terms of what can be considered to be things like bestiality, can consider things like extramarital affairs, can consider other things and so on. But there's no manuscript for sex. There is none. The bed is undefiled. Many pastors will stand up when you're having married and they will tell you the same thing in their sermonette. The bed is undefiled. Now, when you get married now, people are trying to tell you what undefiled means. I don't think there's any manuscript at all. You can read from now to Jesus come. I haven't seen it. And if anybody have it, you can share it with me, because I definitely would like to do what God ordains. But I think, and I finally say, what happens in your bedroom is between you, your wife, and God. Whatever happened there is you all. That's how I see it.
All right. So I'll just put that
I
comment there.
think Wilson just covered that, so that should be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to take the final. It's 8:50 already. I'm so enjoying this. I like the openness and everything. So the final comment. The final question. So I'm just gonna go up and ensure that I have Vanessa's question. We had one like that related to that in to discuss here this evening. But she was asking the question. Okay, beautiful. I found it here. What is the best way that a wife can cope in this situation? What are some coping mechanisms? So, in essence, if there's a woman suffering from this issue, I know we would have addressed it partially in our discourse, but we just want to reiterate those pointers there.
I can quickly just run through what I would say, in a nutshell, in a therapy session, if someone came to me with this issue, um, and what I think is also the typical route that a therapist would take on a situation like this, and that is basically that they have to try to switch off that fixation that we have on the penis. Whenever we think about sex, there is a fixation on the penis. And because we're fixated on the penis, it creates the ideology that without the penis, nothing can happen. And that is a fallacy, because there are loads of other things that you can do in the absence of the penis. Sex is so much more than just penetration, but because we place all our emphasis on the penetration, we have convinced ourselves that unless there is penetration, we haven't managed to enjoy ourselves. It is quite possible to just focus on connecting with each other, stop being so fixated on the penis and on the penetration, and instead focus on giving and receiving pleasure. And I don't think I have to elaborate on that. Giving and receiving pleasure can look like 100 different things. Like
True.
I said, that is entirely, completely up to the two of you. What you do in there, as Pastor Manzano said, is only you, the two of you, and God. It's nobody's business, not even the therapist. If I say focus on giving and receiving pleasure, remind yourself that it is a temporary situation. Remind yourself
Correct.
that it is a problem that has a solution. And remind yourself that you are actively engaged in working toward that solution, and that you will very soon be back to regular, normal programming. But in the meantime, give and receive pleasure in there are 100 other ways that you can do it. Get creative. If you need suggestions, I can give you suggestions in private chat.
That God pleased with, right?
Amen. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Therese.
I can add one thing to that, but Dalen, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just add along with Tara's understanding that it's a problem that your husband is facing and it's not on you. As in, it's not your fault, so you don't need to feel anxiety, you don't need to feel guilt, you don't need to feel blame. What you need to feel is love and support for what your husband is going through. And once you understand and you educate yourself of the causes, the effects and the treatments of ED, then there are so many mechanisms out there of coping, and both of you can do it together. Communication is top priority when dealing with a husband that has ED. If you keep your thoughts to yourself, you would only develop resentment and anger and be upset because this is not what you want in your life and so forth. But you need to share these things with your husband and allow your husband to be frank and open. And it's easier to say, share it with your husband, but you yourself as a wife need to create that safe space where your husband can communicate with you. If you put up a wall and you already say, okay, I can't handle this, then it doesn't make sense for him to come and talk to you about it. So it requires a lot of patience as well as understanding for what your husband is going through. If those things are not there, then you're basically setting up yourself for failure, for confusion, for a marriage that is unstable and miserable on both your part and your husband.
Thank you, Daleen, for that. So the two
I think
married folks would have
I
spoken. Go right
yeah,
ahead, Jason.
I think those are solid advice. Listen, those are very, very, very solid. And I would like to publicly agree with Daleen and Therese. You understand? I also like to say something here, that we need to get in the habit of preventing than fighting. Most of the times when we start to fight things, it's just because we allow the preventing stage to go unnoticed. And that is the challenge that we have. What am I talking about? I am going to strongly believe, and that's why I read plenty, because education and knowledge are important. They
Yes.
help you to be aware of things, and they put you in a position where you can deal with things. That's where the prevention is coming now. Now, what's going on? First and foremost, people need to understand erectile dysfunction is not cancer. Where a lot of persons get cancer and just go down. Erectile dysfunction can be reversed in most cases. It can be reversed. And I believe that when the doctor comes on next week, I will leave that for her. She will share with so many ways in which erectile dysfunction can be helped. So it's not like there is no hope. You understand? And that is something people need to understand. How do I understand this? If I read, if I get knowledgeable about the topic, that is how I will understand. Just imagine you have a husband and wife together, right? And the wife goes out of her way to study a lot about erectile dysfunction, just as how the guy will go out of his way and study some female issues as well. And anything happen, both of them will be able to understand, and then they will be able to work towards it. But even before then, when I say preventing Shabiki, I'm talking about having a knowledge of what things are, and then try to align yourself in a position so that you do not end up there.
Yeah.
And when it comes to erectile dysfunction, one of the things that can definitely place people in the prevention category is your lifestyle choices. Husband and wife need to have that as an ultimate priority. Exercise, eating healthy, rest. Adventists have this whole thing called New Start. It still work. Nutrition, exercise, drinking water, sunlight is important. Temperance, and you go all the way down, eat and rest. That thing still work today. And when your lifestyle is intact, you might not even know how to spell erectile dysfunction. You understand? You might not even know. You're helping yourself to prevent it. Once we do our part, we place ourselves in a better position. But I find too many times we end up on the side of fighting because one, we don't have the knowledge, we don't understand what we are doing, we don't understand how we got there, and then we start to fight. And sometimes when we start to fight, sometimes in some cases, it might very well be too late. So that is what I would like to suggest to people. Let us work on preventing over fighting.
Beautiful, well said. Thank you. All right, I'm just sitting here and I'm laughing. Um, I don't know if Pastor Manzan, I don't know if you're seeing this message here, but Pastor Orkleys is asking Dr. Andy Manzano what guidance you have for us on this giving and receiving of pleasure. I know after this program
Pastor Hercules is a set on, you know.
I know after this program I'll be having tons of messages and everything. Folks, listen to me carefully. You and God decide. I am not married as yet. And listen, me and my husband, we will have to make our decisions, right? Because of the fact that there is no manual prescribed to it, I will just leave it just there. Everybody, you have your own conviction on it. Until anybody, by the way, let me just say this. If you want to send me a message on this in particular, I'll be very, very happy because we're all learning here. We all have our opinions on matters. Please ensure that you find me the scripture that you're sending to me. Please ensure that you find me whatever material you have to back up. Just ensure that you're sending that to me so at the end of the day, I can make it available to others, because this is what Issues in Focus is all about. Me being the host here, entertaining beautiful panelists as we ask questions, they give information. At the end of it, we may agree, we may disagree. I don't have a problem with any person disagreeing, but please ensure you bring the facts up so that as long as you bring facts to me, folks, I promise you, next week, Gospel Life, when the doctor is here, I'm gonna ensure I have a 10-minute segment to refute some of the claims that were made on the program this evening so that we can rectify your concerns. Just saying. So to all my friends, if you have my WhatsApp number, you have it, no problem messaging me. But please ensure you bring all the texts attached to what you are saying. Thank you very much. Is there anybody, one more person to speak on the closing question? I think, Joanna, you have
I didn't really have anything to say on that closing question. The only thing that I would say is that at the end of the day, concerning what you were just saying, the Bible gives us the principle of sex, which is for enjoyment, for connection. And I think that we should let that principle take precedence and not our personal preferences. And at the end of the day, yeah, I like that Dr. Shaw's comment made me giggle a while ago. You cannot probably accurately take an ancient book, and the Bible is a powerful book, don't get me out of context, or something that was not existing in Bible time, something that did not exist in Ellen White's time, and try to find claims to support that. The principle has to trump our decision, which is that we love each other, we are committed to each other, we are faithful to each other, we are doing it to build our connection, we are pleasing each other. And as long as you are convicted to do it, there's no way we can prove or disprove that. So at the end of the day, it all boils down to conviction. So we are not going to argue or try to prove or disprove, because I think that's a waste of time. We have to focus now on what is the principle? Why did God give us sex in the first place? Are we violating that purpose? And if we are not violating that purpose, let's just leave it up to people to decide.
Thank you very much. Thank
Can
you.
I just say one thing, Shabiki? Just one thing. And also, the reason why you will never find a manuscript is because everybody who receives pleasure is not on the same platter. Daleen receiving sexual pleasure might be totally different to Therese. Daleen pleasure points on her body might be totally different to Therese. We are all different. I remember speaking to a friend of mine, and he told me that his body count was 25 women. That was his body count. At the age of 28, he had slept with 25 women. When he got married, he said the way that what he did with those girls, his wife demanded something totally different. So if he went to have sex with 25 women for experience, he realized in marriage that, hey, that experience was so different because my wife needed something else. What pleased my wife, the touches that I give my wife was totally different places to what I give to the other woman. We need to be very careful as to who wants to control married people bed. When they are married, let them and God decide. And I will forever say that, because I will feel very, very, very hurt if somebody have to restrain my sexuality or come and tell me what I am allowed to do and what I'm not allowed to do and all those things. So in other words, even in my bed, in having pleasure, sometimes when you're at that point, you don't think straight. But in your bed having pleasure now, you have to make sure that you don't cross all the bus stop. You have to make sure that you remain in the green. That will be very tough. Because if we understand the structure of our bodies and what happens when you are enticed to that level and the chemicals that are released at that time and the reasons why that part, the frontal lobe, is basically taken over. If we understand all of that, we'll understand that having a manuscript can be very difficult. That is just my point when it comes to that.
Thank you so much, Jason. And in relation to Vanessa's point, I want us never ever to forget members of the audience. Last night I was sharing with some of the folks here. I was telling them, I said, you know what? God has the power to raise anything, to bring back anything, and make anything that was dead living. And I want us never to underscore the fact of praying, and while we're taking all the practical measures, let us never leave God out of the picture also, because he is a God who is a restorer, and he can bring back anything that was not functioning, and he can bring it back to normalcy. So don't forget that. If you have to pray, I don't think this is, maybe ladies, you have not been doing that, but seeing that erectile dysfunction, when I look at the stats, over 30 million men is affecting, start praying for your husband penis, or pray about it. Like, I mean, seriously, It may sound as a joke right now, but just like how you're praying for health and you're praying for all of the other stuff, yes, we understand the underlying situation surrounding it, surrounding the different factors. Pray for his penis also. So don't worry. And I had this question today. Somebody asked me, are you going to look at the female issues too, like PCOS and everything that can affect a man from having the best sex that he wants? Yes, we are not going to be one-sided here. So like how we focus on erectile dysfunction, we are going to look at vaginal issues and PCOS issues that are affecting women that would have created such a scenario or so many different psychological effects for our married men. So on that note, I just want you members of the panel, if you have one closing statement, please make it at least one sentence before I ask the lone male on our panel to close us in prayer this evening.
One thing I will say is that, guys, ensure that you do your research. Don't take our word for it. Go and do your own personal research. Get educated on the topic, and you will see so many issues out there and know how to cope and know how to treat.
Thank you very much.
I second that. I believe that with education, we can take our feelings out of the equation, we can make more informed decisions, and we can prevent, hopefully, even the underlying issues from worsening, and we can get back to normal. As soon as we can get this thing treated and under control, anyone that's watching, anyone that's listening, just do your research, as Deline would have said. Go and visit your doctor, see what the issue is, and once that is fixed, your life will be back to normal. This is not the end of the world. There are so many people, as Shabiki would have mentioned, 30 million in the US only dealing with this. This is very common. There are so many treatments, so many options, so many things that you can take into consideration. Wives, take your feelings out of it. Just know that this is not him not desiring you. This is him just being incapable of doing something that he wants to do for you. So as you work on it together, I believe that God will indeed give you the strength, the wisdom to cope with it and to get the right help.
Thank you very much, Joanna.
The only thing I can say, because I think the ladies have already covered it, is to underscore the fact that erectile dysfunction is a temporary situation. In the times in which we live, and with the knowledge and the science and the technology that we now have access to, nobody has to live with erectile dysfunction. Nobody. There is literally no type of erectile dysfunction nowadays that they don't have a fix for. They have a fix for everything. Trust me. Everything. Medications, injections, operations. They're literally surgical operations that they can do. I mean, the technology is available. You just have to access it. So if you find yourself in a situation where you are experiencing it, best thing you can do for yourself is go get help sooner rather than later. And just have the problem taken care of, because it might have a very quick and easy fix.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think, well, in my closing statement, I would just like to say that as men, anything that basically makes us depressed, angry, appear less masculine or feel less masculine, socially isolated, placing us at a point where we lack confidence, or our desire to avoid our spouse, is something that we need to be educated about. As I said, I randomly at night after studies, when I have a free off time, I randomly go and read. And I read a lot about what I need to know about myself and about my body and about the whole kingdom of what we as men have to be aware of: prostate cancer, erectile dysfunction, all of these things and so on. And because of the knowledge that I have now embraced, it is putting me more in a position where I can now start to keep myself in check. Knowledge informs. application moves. So we need to be very careful. We can't just have this as another discussion and just ignore the information. It's time for us to get on the bandwagon. I remember a friend of mine said, Madam Smart, who I see on YouTube as well, she was saying over and over that men do not like to go and get checkup. And it's so true. I hate the doctor. But because of my knowledge and because of what I would have read, it would have placed me in a better position to understand that going to the doctor is important. Do I prefer to prevent or do I prefer to fight? Which one am I going to choose? And I believe that I'm better if I'm preventing something than fighting it. So that is just my final take.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Jason, Anne-Marie says, Jason, I think you read enough. You are more than ready for this marriage thing. Just saying. So let's take Anne-Marie's advice.
I would like to tell Anne-Marie that the time is coming up rapidly. So Anne-Marie, you're also on my invitation list. Now with COVID, it might just be YouTube. But don't worry, you are going to be invited.
Amen. Amen. All right.
Amen. Hallelujah, Jason.
Hallelujah.
All right, so this brings the curtains down on the program this evening. Oh, by the way, after the closing prayer, I just want to tell you what's coming up next for next week, and I'm going to show you this flyer. So, Jason, please do us the honors of doing the closing prayer before we do the outro.
Father, we thank you and we praise you because you remain God, and we thank you and we praise you because we can come to you for guidance, for information, for knowledge, for wisdom. We can depend on you. But Father, we pray that even as knowledge knocks on our doors, we'll open those doors and accept it so that our wisdom can move us, dear Father, to apply it. Thank you, dear Lord, for everything. Continue to bless this program. The leadership of Issues in Focus continue to bless and provide the desires of our heart in taking this platform to a greater level. Be with us, we do pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And so for next week, guys, by the way, for some of you who may have seen this, I posted a new video. We're doing short content videos right now. And there's a video up on YouTube right now, Unrealistic Wife Expectation. Do husbands expect too much from their wives? I know we would have covered 3 episodes on this. If you have never seen it before, you may need to go back, listen to the live podcast. But take a look at this video. Don't forget to like, to share, to put your comments in the comment section. And remember, I would have said that if you have questions, feel free to send your questions to this email, issuesinfocus2020@gmail.com. We are sure to have, depending upon the question, I have different experts who are going to address your concern and your question. In addition to that, next week, Gospel Live, we are going to do this particular program. We're continuing erectile dysfunction, but this time we are looking at it from a biological perspective. And so a doctor will be on the platform. I noticed there's someone by the name of Car would have sent a message in the chat asking something to do with pre-ejaculation. Please note that all of these questions will be addressed next week. So we're inviting you to be back next week as we continue. So feel free to subscribe to Issues in Focus with Shibiki Vivos. I'm going to see you again next week. Thanks once again to all the members of our panel and to all of you who have been actively supporting us during this journey. So blessings as we play our outro for this evening. Take care. See you again next week at 6:30.
You have been a wonderful audience. Don't forget to like the page and follow on Facebook at Issues in Focus with Shibiki. You have been a wonderful audience. Don't forget to like the page and follow on Facebook at Issues in Focus with Shibiki.